welcome to the show. How you guys doing out there in the chat room? Yeah, we are a little early, but we are expecting a call in from Sean Gallagher in a few minutes. Hey, what's up there, Iron Basset Biohazard? Nice for you guys to join us today. Really appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about Navy SEAL Chief Eddie Gallagher's plight, and let me tell you, this is freaking unbelievable the way our government is acting right now. This guy is an American hero, and instead they put him in cuffs. Unfreaking real. Now, this is from the Navy Times, and this article was actually, I'm going to read it a little bit until the phone call comes in, but this is from October 19th, 2018, and it reads as follows. Charged earlier this month with multiple war crimes in connection with the 2017 stabbing death of a detainee in Iraq, Chief Special Warfare Operator Eddie Gallagher vows to fight for freedom. The 19-year Navy veteran has hired two high-powered criminal defense attorneys who specialize in military law, Colby Volke of Dallas and Philip Stackhouse of San Diego. And he's exploring a civil rights lawsuit against the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, which he should. Agents for alleged misconduct linked to the September 11th arrest and detention in San Diego's Navy Consolidated Brig Miramar. And Article 32 hearing with a special military judge sent from Florida will begin to sift through the evidence against Gallagher. And again, this is from last year on November 14th, according to Stackhouse. The judge will then recommend which charges should be forwarded or withdrawn by an admiral who would convene a general court-martial. Gallagher has been accused of murder, aggravated assault, obstruction of justice, and personal misconduct. Quote, while the burden is very, very low to send the charges to court, Chief Gallagher will, like he has on every combat deployment, fight. Fight to clear his name, fight for justice, and fight to expose the lies that are being made to him, or made against him, said Stackhouse in a written statement emailed to Navy Times, which he should. Again, I cannot believe that they are putting a hero, a 19-year veteran, in cuffs. This is outrageous. He is over there fighting the, he was, what was that, ISIS or ISIL as they call them? Them freaking animals, and they're putting one of our boys in cuffs. And the story goes on. Multiple criminal defense attorneys, senior military commanders in the Navy and several special warfare units told Navy Times that the ongoing war crimes probe isn't focused solely on Gallagher, but includes more than a dozen SEALs. You hear that? A dozen of our boys who are also deployed between 2017 and 2018 near what then was Islamic State-held Mosul, Iraq. Now, everybody knows the Islamic State and the animals that they were. They used to cage people, burn them alive, acid, everything they can. They were animals. So now that our boys go over there and do their job, now they're being held, now there's an investigation, what did it say? Into a dozen or more of them. This is our boys. NCIS agents are not only probing a number of serious allegations involving the death of the detainee, but also images that allegedly depict the SEALs posing with the body. They're also exploring concerns about how Naval Special Warfare Group 1 officers and senior enlisted leaders handled the initial reports about war crimes and the internal investigation that followed in their wake, they said. But the central question in Gallagher's case is whether he and other SEALs rendered first aid, which anybody on this side, screw them, let them die, and to the wounded Islamic State fighter, or if they executed them, which they deserve. They're Islamic fighters. It's war. That's what war is. Because the military judge has sealed most of the evidence in the case and has placed a gag order on all parties, Stackhouse said he can't address specific allegations or delve into most details of the NCIS probe. Quote, but what we have learned in our independent investigation into these allegations is that a crime simply didn't happen. I can see that a mile away, and I don't even see the freaking, I don't even know any of the evidence. But what I do know is that our boys are over there to fight. They're there to eliminate the enemy. Plain and simple, it is war. Now, as an American, I have some freaking concerns of what's going on over there. You gotta let our boys fight. And with war comes death, which means you do what you gotta do to win. And that video that I seen of Eddie being led away in cuffs as his wife Andrea saying goodbye and stuff like that, that was heartbreaking to me. It really was. Because here's a 19-year veteran, and all of a sudden, what is it? Our own government's going to go against him? This is unfreaking real, man. Oh, man, I can't believe this. Hold on a sec before I go on. Let's see who's out in the chat room right now. We are all over the world today. We have people, let's see, on our other platforms coming in from Eastern Europe, Oz, and South America. Damn, man, we're getting big. I appreciate everybody coming in. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and enjoy the show. Anyway, Stackhouse traces the beginning of the NCIS investigation to April while Gallagher was preparing to retire from the Navy and leave California for Florida. He asked military prosecutors for a copy of the June search warrant obtained through a federal magistrate in San Diego that allowed NCIS agents to search Gallagher's residence in military housing in Point Loma, but they haven't provided it yet. They held Chief Gallagher at NCIS while they knew his wife was at work, Stackhouse said. NCIS laid siege to the house in the morning hours. Now, this is one of our boys. Our own government laid siege to his house, weapons drawn on a 19-year-old veteran's house, and inexplicably traumatized Chief Gallagher's young sons by pulling them out of the house at gunpoint in their underwear. These are kids. Are you kidding me? Outrageous, man. Outrageous. Stackhouse said that the NCIS probe accumulated on September 7th when agents arrested Gallagher at Camp Pendleton's Intrepid Spirit Center. Opened on April 4th, the base receives aids, blah, blah, blah. Originally from Indiana, Gallagher, 39, enlisted in the Navy in 99. He's been a SEAL for 14 years, following a stint as a corpsman attached to the Marine Corps, according to his military records. And his awards include 3 Combat Valor Awards, 2 Bronze Stars with a V device, and 1 Navy Marine Corps Commendation Medal. He received 2 other commendation medals from both the Navy and the Army. He's been married for 11 years. Gallagher's wife, Andrea, told New York Times that families suffered in silence while whispered allegations against the SEAL mounted during the early spring and summer. So somebody is trying to save their ass, or somebody's trying to pin something. But for our government to be investigating a dozen of our SEALs, now personally, anybody out there, do you really care? Thanks, Dan, for that. You're on air. How you doing, Sean?
Doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We were going through a little bit. I was reading an article from the Navy Times out in October, and boy, our blood's already boiling.
Well, yeah. Well, I can commiserate with you there. Our family has been, quite literally furious for about 4 to 5 months straight now. It's not any longer. So it's always good to hear the same sentiment shared by patriots and folks who can see kind of the absurdity of the situation.
Oh my God, you know, the absurdity it goes beyond normalcy here. I cannot believe NCIS went to the home, weapons drawn, and got those two kids out of there in their underwear. That just it infuriates me why they had Chief in custody already, and Andrea was at work, and they did that to the kids. What is wrong with these people?
So I want to say that story is not embellished. That is actually what happened. My brother was away from his home. So the timeline of this, right, is that my brother comes back from deployment in 2017. Months go by. About 6 or 7 months or so in the timeline, Eddie is notified that he's under investigation. And this is a little bit early 2018. And he's told not to talk about it. He's not told not to do anything about it. And these guys in the SEAL teams, you know, there's a lot of action that they see. And so it's not uncommon in some senses for a lot of these guys to be under review, because they have to make so many split-second decisions. Typically, however, everything is always called clear. They see that there is a clear chain of command and all this hierarchy and all that stuff that needs to take place. But Eddie thinks that this is what's going to happen. He's told that, hey, we're looking at some actions taken in combat, and he's told not to talk about it. He's told that he can't get involved and just wait for a report. What happened was he's away at training, right? So he's not even at the house. He's away. They arrest him at training. So he's already hours away from his home. They detain him. They throw him in solitary confinement with his hands cuffed behind his back. And again, we're talking about, and I can get into the biography of my brother. My brother is freaking legit. He was since 1999, am I right? Yeah. So he joined, he followed a tradition that we have in my family, and the Gallagher family, of joining the service. You know, my father was a West Point graduate. His two brothers are naval aviators, so I have a helicopter pilot and a fighter pilot, jet fighter pilot. Their parents, both of them, my grandmother and their father, my grandfather, served in the Navy. On my mother's side, I have a grandfather who served in the Navy during World War II. And so my brother, at 19, after high school, says, you know what, it's my duty to follow the family tradition. It's my honor to do it. He joins up. He enlists straight out of high school, becomes a medic. So he's a corpsman, and then attaches to a Marine unit. So the Marines don't have corpsmen, so they're very protective over their Navy corpsmen. So he does that. He falls in love with the Marines. He becomes a Marine scout sniper. He's the only person, to my knowledge at least, that has made it through the elite scout sniper school. And for those listeners out there, for anybody who knows the military, the Marines, you know, are rightly so very protective of their reputation. They don't want any Navy person walking through their school. So they gave my brother one hell of a hard time, but they respected him. They saw his work ethic. They welcomed him in. So he passed Marine Scout Sniper School and then deployed twice. He was at the tip of the spear in 2003 when we deployed to Iraq for the very first time under George W. Bush. And as you can imagine, my family, that's when it became real for us. I'm 35 years old now. I can vividly remember being a sophomore in college and getting a phone call from my only brother as I was walking to class, and he was, hey. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, I'm going to war. And at that point, I knew that he'd be fighting for us. And he had gone back 8 times. My brother has gone pretty much every other year since 2003. Back to Iraq and Afghanistan, Afghanistan. And he considers it his privilege. He considers it his honor. He's one of those guys that loves fighting for this country. He's a patriot. He loves what we stand for. He lives and breathes the Navy SEALs in the military. And, yeah, again, it was his honor to do it. But on this last deployment, he realized soon, after he got back, that the political climate, the PC culture, and all of that had changed. And he is currently being railroaded. And so going back again to the raid, and I just want your viewers to understand that we didn't make up any of this stuff. This is legitimately real. My brother is arrested and thrown in solitary confinement, not being told what's going on. They know that his wife, my sister-in-law, is out of the house. And this is in the United States of America. This is in San Diego. About 15 armed, swatted up, fully kitted up NCIS agents storm into the house. The only people that are home, they know that my brother isn't there, and they know that his wife isn't there. They know that it's only children inside. They storm in. My third-grade nephew, who was 8 or 9 at the time, is downstairs by himself, and then my high school nephew, who's 17 at the time, is upstairs. So my little nephew sees men surround their house with M16 assault rifles. They storm in. He is frightened. He is terrified. They point a gun at him. He runs upstairs. He gets his brother and clings to his leg. And my 18-year-old or 17-year-old nephew has to carry him downstairs, where they stick a gun in his face. And they march him outside to the end of the street, both of them in their underwear, at gunpoint, for over an hour while they raid my brother's home. Again, no threat present. My sister-in-law comes home. She is livid. She's in tears. Her kids are surrounded by armed agents. They throw them in the back of a van. My nephews will never be the same. They had, again, assault rifles stuck in their face, and this is how this process has played over the past year. That's when we knew that shit hit the fan. That's when we knew that we were under assault from an entity and agency that was just rogue. And that kind of abuse of power, that kind of corruption that I just described, has literally been waged against our family time and time and time again. And now my brother, again, a decorated war hero, a decorated Navy SEAL, is over 4 months in jail right now without even due process for his day in court. And we are aghast. We're perplexed. We're furious. And we're just sad at the treatment that this American hero is getting, from a rogue system. And it's not necessarily the military. It's their prosecutors, these lawyers who wear Navy uniforms, even though they don't deserve to, that are going after Eddie for no reason at all.
Well, there's a lot of us out here, Sean. We're just shaking our heads because we don't understand what the hell went on here. Because when I seen that video with Eddie saying goodbye to Andrea, it was all over the net, and he's innocent and stuff. And I'm sitting here because I gotta say, a lot of my family fought in every war that this country's had since the beginning of it. And I'm sitting here saying, well, he's a freaking hero. Here, I don't care what. He's over there fighting the Islamic State. Now, these are animals over there. I'm talking, we're not politically correct on this show. But, they're animals. And to have one of our boys in handcuff, they just smacks us like, what the hell is going on with these people charging him? It's war. That's what he was sent to do. And, with all the awards, the honors, he's a Navy SEAL. And they're doing this to him. And to do that to his babies, that's what really got me right there was the babies. That is just, you don't do that.
So there has been one point, and this is something that I haven't really shared with people, but I think it's worth mentioning. My brother is a strong man. He is a legit warrior. He is, and I'm saying this from the beginning, represents the best of who we are as a country, the best of who we are as a people. My brother is a humble warrior. He's a loving husband. He's a dedicated and devoted father of 3. The only time that he is really broken down in the process is the day they raided his home, because he realized the people who raided it, they're not, if you can imagine the type of people who belong to NCIS and would raid home, that don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're not supposed to do that. They don't know that they don't need to do that. And they certainly don't have good trigger discipline. For you Second Amendment folks out there will know what I'm talking about.
Right.
There was M16 rifles, and my brother literally had tears streaming down his face in anger and in sadness, because he realized that these guys raiding his home, pointing guns at his kids, all it could have taken is one bump of the elbow, or a bang into a pedestal, or a banister on the stairways, and they would have accidentally fired. That's how worried he was at the competency of these guys.
Oh,
and the treatment, and I just cannot reiterate, the treatment has been nothing less than appalling. The absolute lack of decency and dignity afforded a soldier who has served this country as much as Eddie has. Again, 20 years in the service, 14 of those as the U.S. Navy SEAL. He's been to combat 8 times. He has 3 medals for valor, 2 Bronze Stars, and 1 Navy Marine Commendation. with V for Valor. He has 4 Good Conduct Awards. He has been awarded Navy Sailor of the Year, Sailor of the Quarter. This past deployment, he earned this very prestigious accolade of #1 SEAL Chief. So, like, of everybody deployed, of every SEAL deployed, he got #1 because of the job he did in Iraq fighting the enemy. And he comes home, and these pencil pushers, these career bureaucrats in this investigatory body, literally lay siege to his house, take his kids out at gunpoint, and one small little movement, and my nephews, his son, could be dead right now. And that's the reality of the situation we're facing. You know, a lot of people, they hear the story and they are simply aghast. They say, there's no way that this has happened. There's no way that the story that I'm telling is true. But I can tell you, every step of the way, our family has said those exact things. How could this be happening? That day when he called me, and he was like, they just raided my home, they took my stuff, they put my kids out at gunpoint, I thought that he was lying. I thought that he was over-exaggerating. But then I saw it. And then I realized that there was no accountability, there's no oversight. The people that were doing this were so incompetent. And at that point, we realized that we were very alone, that a lot of the people that he had fought with abandoned him. The career bureaucrats above him didn't step in and intervene and say that this defies logic and decency and goodness. They just let it happen. And so right now, again, my brother, someone who hasn't been convicted of anything, he hasn't even had his day in court, has been behind bars. And I'm not even making this up either. The brig that they put him in is for sex offenders.
Oh, my God.
So they integrated him with the regular criminal population. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to. So he's in what they call pretrial confinement, which is just a fancy way of saying, I'm going to lock you up until your day in court. And the government, of course, takes forever. So they've ripped him from his family. They've thrown him in jail. For 4 months, he's been languishing there. And his trial is next month, so he could spend 5 to 6 months in jail before he actually proves his innocence. And our family has been saying this phrase over and over again, and it is absolutely true. Eddie has been treated as guilty until proven innocent. They don't have anything on him. As a matter of fact, I know personally, and our lawyers and our counsel and everybody that he served with on his last platoon, the charges levied against him, and I can get into them, but the charges levied against him have no basis in fact.
Well, I was reading some of the charges, and I was just shaking my head. And when you're talking about, I believe you 100% of how the story went, because I see it happening to the President of the United States right now. You got these rogue people out there going to, trying to get somebody. So it don't surprise me that somebody's out there, that story does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I can feel it. When you watch news and you watch what's going on with the President, there's some sense where you hear the word fake news and you never think that it's going to apply to you. It's such an abstract concept, James. You think that there's no way that what's going on in the news and the insanity of what you see could ever be applied to you or your loved ones or your children or your family. But this is exactly what's happening to Eddie. And I can explain this pretty easily from start to finish.
Oh, go ahead, please, man. The mic's yours.
So Eddie was deployed last year, or 2017 to Iraq. Some of the heaviest and intense fighting. He's in charge of a platoon. There's a couple guys in his platoon that break. They buckle under his leadership. It's the first time they've seen combat. They weren't prepared. And look, I don't necessarily blame them. I've seen videos of what Eddie had to do over there and the enemy that they were fighting in ISIS, and it's pretty gruesome. Not everyone is built for that. But in the SEAL team's reputation is everything. It's the currency that they traded. You cannot exist as a Navy SEAL without your brothers believing that you're going to fight at their side, believing that you will do everything in your power to save your brother, to fight the enemy, and to do what they call put out. Just to put out your effort, to put out your heart, and all of that stuff. So there were a couple guys that he caught gossiping behind his back that they were, let's just say, critical of his leadership. They said that they were being put in too much danger, that they were engaging with the enemy too much, like too much contact. And my brother looks at them. He has this little small mutiny that's forming in his platoon, and he calls them out. He's like, this is what I signed up for. I signed up to fight terrorists. I signed up to fight the enemy. As a matter of fact, I'm happy to. And he told them, this is the type of deployment that I want. I want to be able to fight ISIS. They train so much, Jake. They train so much just so that they can go over there and use their skills and use their knowledge and use their experience to fight evil. And these guys didn't want to do it. And so he called them out for it. He benched them. And then he reintegrated them back into the team weeks later, thinking that they had learned their lesson. Now, they didn't, pitch a fit the whole rest of those appointments. They were scolded, they were reprimanded, and these very junior guys just wrote it out until the very end. My brother leaves a little bit early to go home. He has to go visit his daughter, and these guys start riling up and spinning stories because they realize when they get stateside, they realize when they get back home, that if Eddie gives them a bad review, if he says that they were cowards in combat, he says that they weren't ready to take the fight to the enemy, their career is over. And so what do? They conspire. And we actually have testimony. We actually have witness testimony where these guys constantly went up the chain of command and they started spinning stories that Eddie stole something from him. No one could corroborate. So they said, okay, well, what's worse than that? Well, Eddie, was a bad leader. He put us in too much danger. They said, how so? And they said, well, nope, that's actual tried and true SEAL tactics. Eddie's a committed leader. And then so these guys actually are on record going to one of their superior officers saying, what will it take? What will it take to get Eddie out of leadership and to get Eddie kicked out of the field? And they looked at them and they said, you have no idea what you're talking about me. And so these guys then left the chain of command. They left outside the Navy SEAL, and they made up lies directly to NCIS. NCIS, without even hesitating, swallowed these lies wholeheartedly. They believed them in spite of mounds of contrary evidence, in spite of mounds of witness testimony that contradicts it, in spite of video and audio and pictures that contradict everything that they said. I cannot tell you how much evidence that we have that exonerates my brother of all of these charges. But they believe these lies, and then they go straight after Eddie. So the raid happens to all of this stuff. They throw him in jail, and at every single point, at every turn legally, my brother has demanded, I want to face my accusers. I know the guys that are making this up, and I know why they're doing it, and I want to cross-examine them. I want to poke holes in their story, and the government has refused to let him do that. He has done it 4 times now in 4 months. He's filed a motion to say, hey, look, put my accusers on the stand. I want a chance. I want to crack at them. I want my lawyers to cross-examine him. I have a ton of questions for him. And the government has said no. And instead, they've thrown him in jail, again, with convicted sex offenders. They have refused him access to his lawyers. They've refused him access to his family. They've refused him access to the community that he has served and loved for 20 years. And so if you visit my brother in the brig, there is just a sense of just betrayal, of absolute betrayal by people wearing the same uniform he has, but have no idea the kind of soldier he is and the man that he is and the husband that he is and the patriot that he is. And so we are today, I'm telling this story to as many people, and I'm so honored that you have me on your show to talk to, the true patriots. I know that there's a lot of folks out there that, that love our country, and what it stands for. And I cannot tell you how severe the injustice is that's happening to Eddie right now, how severe the betrayal is, and how desperately we need your help to write the president, to write your leaders, to petition those that we have entrusted, to oversee our military, to oversee our justice system, to right this wrong, because it is a travesty what is happening, an absolute, pure and simple travesty. I visit my brother, and he is pained because he has felt undercut by the country that he has served. He has felt betrayed by his command and his leadership, and he is just sitting in there ripped from his family, waiting for folks to come to his aid. And I keep on telling him there are patriots out there that know that this is wrong, that know that something needs to be done. And so I'm trying to get the message out as much as I can to try and motivate those and to inform those that we need your help. The system is broken, and there's a true warrior inside that is desperately in need of your assistance.
Now, has any of our representatives got involved in this? Congressmen, senators?
Yes. So Congressman Duncan Hunter, who's a former combat Marine, he represents the district just north of my brother in San Diego. So he represents Camp Pendleton. I had met with his staff, and as you can imagine, I've met with, I think at this point I've met with 25 to 30 congressional offices just myself in the past couple months. his office was among the first to really say, this doesn't sound right, I'm going to do something about it. And so he and his staff have visited my brother in the brig, and they listened to his story, and they looked at his treatment, and Duncan Hunter wrote the president immediately. He said that this is an insane travesty of justice. It needs to be corrected. Eddie's case needs to be let go from the Navy JAG Court, from the lawyers who are just sitting on, his honor and his name, and it needs to be taken and sent directly to the president. So Duncan Hunter has a letter that you can ask. So one of the people always ask me, what can they do? People can contact their own representatives wherever they are and petition that they reach out to Duncan Hunter and sign on to his letter to the president requesting that Eddie be let out of the brig and to see his family and to meet with his lawyers regularly, to actually prepare for trial. But more importantly, to dismiss this entire thing. Because the premise, and I cannot stress this enough, the premise is that my brother is facing life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing an already dying ISIS fighter. And the key point here is that it never even happened. There is video evidence, photo evidence, that shows demonstrably that it never even happened. And yet, the Navy is charging him with life in prison without the possibility of parole. And so we are, insanely seeking help right now because it's that dire. The process is just broken.
My God, it sounds like it. And when you brought up, a dying ISIS fighter, should have slit his throat. But, what is happening in our country when we send our boys over there? What do they got to be afraid of being charged with some kind of crime for doing their job now?
That you couldn't have said it better. So get this. The insanity of this is that this ISIS fighter, right, he's part of a larger group. Iraqi and U.S. Special Forces, they shell a compound. Supposedly around, the estimates are around 20 to 30 ISIS fighters are in this compound and in this building. All of them die but one. There's a 17-year-old ISIS fighter who's caught. He's wounded from the artillery gunfire. He has a massive machine gun, a PKC 747 in his hand. Iraqi Special Forces detain him. And there's actually an Iraqi journalist that's interviewing him. You can see video of this on one of the articles that's been written about my brother's case. They're interviewing him on the ground. They're asking why he joined ISIS. He says that he did. He says that he's an ISIS combatant. They then take him to my brother because he's a medic to save him. Because not out of the goodness of their hearts, not because they feel for him, because they want valuable intel. They want to interrogate him. So my brother actually starts working on this guy to save him. He intubates him. He puts a crike in his throat to open up his air passages, because this guy is like 90% dead. He has a severed artery in his leg. He has a punctured lung. He can barely breathe. He can barely speak. And so my brother sterilizes an area. He starts rebandaging his leg where the severed artery is. He puts a crike in his throat. And then the insane charge is that even after all of it, after trying to save this guy's life, my brother then suddenly pulls out a knife and goes buck wild and stabs him a whole bunch of times. It makes no sense.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense at all, because he's sitting there working on the guy.
And also, there are around 20 people present. There are Iraqi Special Forces present, because this was done out in the open. They bring the ISIS fighter on top of a Hummer, on top of a Humvee. They pull him down, and there's 2 or 3 medics working on him. There are a bunch of fighters around, Iraqi fighters around. They all see this. And this ISIS detainee, this ISIS prisoner pretty much, who was just seconds ago fighting against them, is now dying. He dies from his already existing wound. Again, he has a punctured lung. He has a severed artery in his leg. And Iraqi Special Forces said that they also shot him. So he might have bullet hole wounds. You can never really tell. My brother starts working on him. The guy dies. And the charge is that my brother helped an already dying ISIS fighter die, and our government is threatening him with life in prison. And they've already imprisoned him without due process in his day in court for 4 months.
And all this because of some cowards that couldn't do their job and went outside of command.
Precisely.
My God, I know as a citizen, the SEALs are the opium. They're the best of the freaking best out there. And to hear that some outside, inside of his unit were cowards and did this to its man, my chat room right now is going crazy from all over the world. They're infuriated with this. Now, you said that Duncan Hunter actually wrote a letter to the president. Have you heard anything out of President Trump yet regarding this?
Not yet, no.
And I think that's what really upsets all of us because, as you know, bikers are real patriotic. 70% of them had served as veterans of wars all the way going back to World War II and up. Being vets is one of the huge things with bikers, and bikers overwhelmingly supported Trump in this election, and they hear that he hasn't even touched this case yet. It infuriates us. Because he's supposed to be military orientated.
I share in that feeling. We have pleaded. I have pleaded. My family has pleaded. A lot of his own SEAL teammates who were on the platoon have pleaded with the president, with his administration, to please look at this case. And I want to say this, and I want to make it perfectly clear. I am not asking. My family is not asking for a favor. We're not asking for him to forgive or to overlook a crime committed by my brother. My brother did nothing wrong. He has denied everything that has been said about it from the beginning. They tried to make a plea deal with him to reduce his sentence, and he said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm innocent. I never did this. I'm an honorable man. I want to be with my family." He has said time and time again, "I want to face my accusers." But what we're facing, James, is nothing less than a broken process. Any process that can throw you in jail and then not let you meet with your attorney and take you from your family and deny you food and throw you in with sex offenders, that's a broken system. I mean, our family still to this day, even saying these words out loud, I still don't believe that my brother, again, one of the best people you will ever meet, one of the kindest, one of the most humble, one of the most fierce warriors that we've had in this country. I have family. You were saying that you have family that has fought. My dad went to West Point during Vietnam training for that war. It ended as soon as he got out in 1973. He goes and he trains. He's in Desert Storm. I have 3 grandparents, 2 that fought in the Pacific and 1 that fought in Europe in World War II. My family has a long lineage of fighters. They all know that Eddie is the best of us. That this guy, he's spent more time at war than almost any other military generation alive. He has racked up so many accolades. Some of that, when I talk to military people and they look at his jacket, when they look at his service record, they can almost hardly believe it. They're like, how is this guy this respected? I mean, time and time again, accolade after accolade. And this last appointment, and this should infuriate your listeners as well, this very last appointment, the one that's in question where these insane allegations stem from, my brother was put in for the Silver Star.
Oh, wow.
That's the nation's 3rd highest honor for valor in combat. They pulled the Silver Star from him because they say, hey, look, these accusations have been made. We're going to hold on to this until this clears. The accusations have nothing to do with what he did to earn that medal. And yet they're denying it from him because they want to save face. And James, I cannot reiterate this enough. There is so much politics here, so much careerism. I talk with all people and I say, how can this happen? How can some higher up happen and let this injustice go free or go unchecked? And they say, oh, well, it's just a bunch of people who don't want to risk their skins. They don't want to risk their careers to help a warfighter because they're picking the institution over the actual soldier. And I have news for them. The institution doesn't exist without the soldiers. The institution doesn't exist without the Eddie Gallaghers of the world willing to sign up and fight for them. My brother would have sacrificed his life and did for his men. There are commanders that are above him that have never seen combat that won't sacrifice their careers to help him. And it is infuriating that that is allowed to happen in the best military that's ever walked the face of the earth, in the best country that's ever walked the face of the earth. But yet we have a corruption within. There is a cancer within that we need to cleanse. And my brother's case shines a light on that. And I can tell you, my family is committed to seeing this through. When he is out, James, when he is gone, we're not stopping. I'm going to expose the corruption that I've seen at every step along this process. And I think that that's what the Navy fears most. They want to convict Eddie. They want to smear his name, and they want to drag the name of a good man through the mud just so that they can save their own butts, because they know they've done messed up. They know they picked the wrong family to fight with. And we're a family of warriors. We're quiet. We're Midwestern. You know, my brother and I grew up in Indiana. We're not ones that go around picking fights, but man, they messed with the wrong family. We're pissed, and reasonably so.
Well, rightfully so. You should be freaking through the roof at what's happened to you guys. This is unreal. The more I hear you talk, it's like, what kind of country are we really becoming? You know, I thought we had problems before, but when we go after a man of honor, and he is a man of honor, like you said, I looked at just some of the stuff from that news article. I was like, Jesus Christ, he's got medals for every damn thing. That is honor right there. And he goes and serves 8 tours of duty over there. And I can't believe they're handing him up in cuffs.
My brother has re-enlisted every time he's in combat. Every time he goes over there, whether it's to Iraq or Africa or Afghanistan, which he has been innumerable times, in the middle of combat, in the middle of the suck, he looks out, away from his family and with his brothers, and he says, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to fight for our freedoms. I'm supposed to defend our country. I'm supposed to back up our ideals. I'm supposed to fight evil. And he re-enlists. Every time he's over there, he re-enlists. He believes in this, James. He believes in this country. And this is what we're doing to a good man. And I know for some listeners who don't believe it, watch the videos. Follow the article. They have said the most insane shit about Eddie that is so unfounded. Let me give you an example of how unjust and unfair and just slanderous this whole thing is. So they raid Eddie's home. They take his computers, they take his laptop, and then they have this sham of a hearing, what's called a confinement hearing, where they say, are we going to throw Eddie in jail before his trial? And NCIS and prosecutors have 3 binders full of just absolute crap. They said that they found it through his text messages, and they went through his computers. They were literally searching for anything. And what they found was a text message argument between him and his wife about leaving a movie theater early. And they said that my brother was emotionally abusive to his spouse. That was the justification. And they said this. They handcuffed him, and they didn't let him speak. He had to sit in a courtroom and listen to some other man who didn't even know him say that he was abusive to his wife. And then they also said that just an innumerable amount of things that had no basis in fact, that were all slanderous and subjective. And he sat there and he was telling me, and he was like, Sean, I didn't even know that this was possible. I didn't even know that you were allowed to do this. And yet they told him that he had to shut up and take it. And then after that, they said, oh, there's enough here that we're going to throw you in prison until your day in court. And by the way, they listen to every phone call that he has. They track every visit with his lawyers, and actually they prohibit visits from his lawyers all the time. But they don't care, James. They're so unaccountable that they're smug about it. We filed congressional inquiries about it that, Congress is now looking into his treatment and how this is even possible. But I can tell you, they shirk it off. The people that run this brig, that run this jail, and the command that's throwing them in there, they think that they're untouchable, that no one's going to be able to look at it. But I got news for them. They better wake up, because we've written a list down of every single constitutionally, validated right that my brother has that's been violated, and there are a lot. There are a lot. And, we're just waiting for our day in court. But I got to tell you, I'm even afraid. This is actually what keeps me up at night. I'm even afraid that even though I know that my brother has teammates that he was on this last deployment on that will refute all accusations, that there are video and photographic evidence that refute the accusations, and there are some of his accusers that have actually said, hey, look, I want to change my story, and I don't want to talk about this anymore. Even though that has happened, I am still afraid that the system is so corrupt and political that they're going to convict him anyway. because they can't get out of here without a win. They don't want to make themselves look bad. And so I'm terrified at night, really, even though I know he's innocent, and even though I know that all of this is bogus, that they're still going to go after him just because they can't lose now. And my brother may have to actually spend a year or so in jail at the hands of some careerist bureaucrat who didn't admit that he was wrong. And that's what we're facing. That's the essence of what we're facing right now.
Well, you know what? Your story's even. I got somebody from England, Dibber, sent them off to fight in wars and then prosecute them years later for doing the very job the government sent them off to do. You're reaching everywhere, my man. And a lot of people are upset about this right now. It's going crazy. Even the phone lines are going crazy. But, my God, just hearing this story.
Well, people want to help. And as patriots like yourself and folks that are getting the word out that are helping. But if you want to help, if you want to follow the story, we quickly set up a website called justiceforeddie.com, and that's EDDIE, so Justice for Eddie. It's one of those places where you can look, and there's a ton of articles about this. I wrote an op-ed that was just placed in Newsweek last week. We're just, he's my only brother. We're a small family. I have a wife and 2 kids, and he has 3 kids. And we're just trying to get the word out as best we can about what's going on. So if you want to help or donate or contribute or spread news, when this show is done, we'll post it there as well. It's a place where a lot of people are always asking us, hey, how can I follow up what you guys are doing? JusticeForEddie.com is there. If you're a kind soul and you want to donate, it goes straight to his family and to our legal funds to help defend Eddie. Typically, it still sounds weird that I even say it. Typically, we're the type of family that doesn't like to ask for help or even admit that we need help. But I got to admit, we're facing an uphill battle.
Well, we all need to get involved. We got, if any of you guys are Patriot Guard writers out there, you need to get on to the congressmen and stuff, Bikers for Trump. All our organizations need to get involved in this real quick. Hey, did you hear from Chris Cox yet?
Not yet. Voicemail, not yet.
All right, well, Chris, if you're listening, man, get your ass off out that voicemail and get back to Sean, man. We need to help this guy.
I appreciate that. I do. Any help. Talking to your friends about the story. Knowledge is power in a lot of ways. And a lot of what we see, a lot of my brother's friends that he has served with, one of the weird things that I have served as his brother, as someone who's trying to help my brother out in this case, is just this sounding board for people who call me up and quite literally just yell at me for hours about how upset they are at this. What can they do? Who can they contact? And, the whole thing is if you feel like you can do anything, if you want to contribute. If you want to talk to your friends, talk to your friends. If you want to talk to your Congress, there's a specific ask that you can do to sign on the Duncan Hunter's letter. All of these things will help. If there's enough people putting pressure on, Congress, they're just like anybody else. They respond to pressure. And we need, my family is desperately asking for help in that respect. Because we're only, a small, I've met with at least 20 to 25 now personally, and I'm making a little bit of headway. But, I'm pretty much only one man, and my sister-in-law and my brother's wonderful wife is helping as well. But this is it. It's just one family against the system. And so any help that we get is sincerely appreciated.
Well, I'm going to be putting up the foundation on HarleyLiberty.com, as well as all our social media, and hitting it on the radio stations. And that's right, Lori, hashtag Save Eddie. If you guys can donate to the cause, to a Patriot, I know the family will be really appreciative. And like I said before, if you're in the Patriot Guard Riders or something, let's get involved with some protests. And do you got an address if people actually want to write, Eddie?
So it's the Naval Consolidated Brig Miramar. That's where you can, but sometimes they treat him like shit there, and so sometimes they don't put his letters through. Maybe when we post this, I can make sure that I have the address there correct so that all the letters get through to him.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. And, have you've been on Fox News, hasn't you, and some other news programs?
So I've been on Fox News with Martha McCallum once, Fox and Friends twice. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, has been on Fox and Friends once. And then I was on, One American News this morning. I'm not saying no to anything. I'm out there trying to really help a man. I always tell people this, is that my brother fought for me for 20 years. My brother is quite literally the definition of an American hero. It is an honor of mine to fight for him. It's an honor that I get to fight and give back to him and defend him and defend his name.
Well, all of us need to go out there and fight for Eddie, because he fought for us as a country, fought for each individual on this program, and everybody needs to put, their effort forward to make some noise. Let me tell you, have you been able to, because I know Sean Hannity's pretty close with the man upstairs over at the White House. Have you been able to get on with him yet?
So I've been on his radio program once. I was scheduled last year to be on his TV program, but logistics fell through. There was a special with the First Lady, and so I kindly realized that she was going to take up more time than me. So we're trying to get on Sean. Sean has been very open to hearing about this. He's a big advocate of similar types of things. He knows there are a few people that actually know that my brother's case is just one of many. It's just that right now his case is so ridiculous that it shines a light on the ludicrousness of this entire system, of the UCMJ, and how they prosecute our soldiers for doing the job that we send them overseas to do. So he's been on this, but I'm hoping to be on his TV program pretty soon.
Well, hopefully he stands up to what he preaches on that TV show and actually gets you some help, because, your family does need some help. And like you said, for the last 19 years, I believe you said, or I might be mistaken, that Eddie's fought for us.
Yeah, you're right, 19.
It does. It brings a tear to your eye. And, it just sometimes on this program, I bring up the question, and you can answer it or not if you want. But I always fear going to war, not only in the Middle East, but say Russia or China or, one of them type of countries, if our people are actually prepared to do their job with some of the political correctness that goes on. And it kind of worries you as a citizen that our government's like that, where, Russia or Chinese soldiers, they'll go out there, they don't care what's up, they're going to do their thing. But when we prosecute our boys for doing it, it just worries you as a citizen.
I think that you're absolutely right. If you were to ask my brother a few years ago, he and I talk about, you can imagine he's my only brother. I love him to death, and I always talk about whether or not he believes in the reasons that we go to wars and all this stuff. He is a soldier. He will look at me and just say, I don't care. My country asked me to do it, and it's my job. But I can tell you now, he's probably going to have a little bit of a different opinion. I can't speak directly on his behalf, but I imagine that he's sitting in the brig awaiting his day in court after 4 months in jail and away from his family, that he's pretty skeptical about the politicians making decisions about why to throw someone like him in jail, who's never fought a war, who's never been in combat, has never seen what it's like over there. And yet they're Monday morning quarterbacking something that didn't even happen. Because there's a lot of people that reach out to me, and again, I cannot stress this enough. My brother has from the beginning, and I know it to be true. I know it to be true. But what is being said about him, that he knifed an ISIS fighter to death that was already wounded. It's insane. It's untrue. But there have been people that have reached out to me constantly and said, who cares if he did that? It's a member of the enemy and all that stuff. And I get why people tell me that. I get why, particularly veterans, they come up to me and they're like, people don't know what it's like over there. And to judge somebody for a split-second decision they made in combat is just wrong. It's just, it serves a sinister purpose where you handcuff the ability of the soldier to defend his men, to execute the mission, and to come back victorious. And I've heard this time and again from veterans and from people who have served our country, that the way that we're going with these rules of engagement and with treating folks like Eddie like common criminals and guilty until innocent until they can actually prove they didn't do the thing is just a slap in the face to everything that we believe in. It's such an easily identifiable travesty of justice is a way of putting it, because when you look at his case, just the treatment alone, just the way that they treated my nephews, his sons and his daughter, and the way they're treating his wife, and smearing the name of a good man. I'll give you another example of that. Just, they raided his home, and my brother takes a prescription pain medication. He's been on 8 deployments. He has, bad knees and a busted up back, but he goes back to battle every time he can. But he has a prescription pain medication. Prosecutors claim one of the charges against my brother was that he abused a prescription pain medication while in combat only for 1 month. Now let that sink in for a second. How in the fuck did you know that he took more than his allotted pain pills during 1 month during a deployment overseas? The answer to that is that you wouldn't. You couldn't. And so why would they charge him with that? Well, they charge him with that so when they write an article in the mainstream media, that it comes out and it says Special Worker Operator Chief Eddie Gallagher is charged with premeditated murder, which is insane, and drug charging, so that they can paint him as a villain, so that they can villainize him, so they can feel better about what it is that they're doing. And I can tell you that none of the charges are true. And so when this is done, they will literally have dragged the name of an honorable man who represents everything we want about our sons and our fathers and our uncles in this country, to serve our country, to be a patriot, to be selfless. They dragged him all the way through the mud and villainized him so they can make them feel better about themselves for what they're doing. But when he's cleared, my question is, what happens to them? Will there be recourse? Will my family be able to point the finger and say, okay, it was their fault, he's innocent, what is your consequence? And I know the answer to that. I know that they're going to say, oh, it's just the system and just the way it goes. But it's insane, and it's absolutely unfair.
Exactly. How good is his lawyers? You guys got a lot of faith in his lawyers?
Yeah, so we're fortunate enough. There's, I guess I should say fortunately and sadly, there's an organization that has seen this systemic problem about members of the military being prosecuted for war crimes, for just doing their jobs overseas. And it's called United American Patriot. They provide civilian defenders who used to be JAG, who know the Uniform Code of Military Justice, who know the UCJ, and they provide them for folks like Eddie. So when this started happening, UAP, United American Patriots, they went to my brother and said, hey, look, we know what's going to come at you. And they kind of dictated to him, hey, look, they're going to come at you this way, they're going to do this, the prosecution's going to make up shit here, and you're going to be lied about in the news. And so they're defending us, and they've been doing a great job helping him along the way. But again, I will tell you that I'm just, at the treatment of our family and the treatment of him, I'm thinking that even the best lawyers in the world might not be able to beat this back just because it's a broken system. It's like, so if you look at the conviction rate in the UCMJ, I've been quoted a bunch of figures. Some people say it's 98%, some people say it's 95%, but it's well above 90%, the conviction rate. If you were to look at any athlete, or if you were to look at any regular job, if you were 90% proficient at everything, people would accuse you of cheating. And that's exactly what we're facing, is a system where they say, oh, well, we don't want to look bad, so find him guilty. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing. My brother has civilian defense, thank God. But the first thing that his military assigned, his public defender, his JAG that was assigned to him, said to him is, and this is their first meeting, my brother's been in jail for a month, and his JAG comes up to him, and he says, hey, look, do you want to plea? The first thing he asked him, my brother said, go to hell, no. And the second thing he said, hey, look, the way that this works around here is they might not find you guilty of the big thing, but they're going to get you on something. They're not going to walk out here without a win. And to hear that said to an innocent man and someone who is as honorable as Eddie, it does make your blood boil. It does. The sad thing is despair is a good word, where you were just broken that something like that can actually happen here. That in the United States of America, there is something like that here, where a member of our armed forces, a member of our military who fights our war, and again, not some career bureaucrat, not some pencil pusher, not some lawyer, an actual warrior, an actual fighter, someone who takes the fight to the enemy, gets back, and then some pencil pusher looks at them and says, hey, look, they're going to find you on something, even if he didn't do it. Can you imagine what that feels like to him, to hear those words?
My God, that makes your stomach just drop right there hearing that. It really does. That's our country. You know what? I can tell you, listening through this whole interview and stuff like that, regardless of what was put out about him or any of that, all I have to do is hear about his jacket, his medals, his tours of duty, and knowing that he's a Navy SEAL and that he's honorable. And I believe 100% in Eddie. 100%, I can say.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. I will tell you one of the silver linings, you know, my family always knew that there is a strong community. You know, we participated in a lot of events as a family, as you can imagine, you know, growing up. You know, my father was Army for 22 years, and so we traveled all over the world, stationed at bases all over the place. And we knew that there was a strong community in this country that loved our military, what they stood for, and the freedoms that they fought for. You know, it cuts to the core of who we are as a country and as a people and as a nation. How we treat those who fight our wars for us says everything about who we are. And right now, one of our warriors is being slapped in the face. And some of the silver lining of this is seeing those people like yourself and your listeners and friends and strangers come up to me and say, it's not right, and I'm going to help. I'm going to help defend him. I'm going to talk to a friend, or I'm going to meet a congressman, or I'm going to make a phone call, or whatever it may be. And, you know, as little as it is or as big as it is, it does give me a little bit of hope that even in this broken system, there are good people willing to stand up. You know, the phrase that is often quoted from, you know, Martin Luther King is that all it takes for evil to exist and to flourish is for good men to do nothing. Well, I'm seeing a lot of good men and women actually take action. And I'm just hoping, James, that it's enough to save the life of a good man.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate you coming on and telling Eddie's story. And it's been a heartbreaking, hour hearing about what they're doing to him. And I hope everybody out there listening worldwide, especially those of you in the United States, get on the phones, get that emails going to the state representatives, get them to attach their name to Duncan Hutter's letter. And I hope that President Trump actually shows us that he is behind our military and takes up Eddie's case, because this is a travesty of justice. We cannot send our boys over there to fight and have to worry about coming home and get charged for something. This is just outrageous for our government, the NCIS, to go into his home, to bring out his babies in their underwear, and unreal. I just can't, unreal. I'm just shaking my head there, Sean. With that, you got any closing words, bud? Because I know, don't forget, with the website address, if you guys donate as much as you can to this cause and everything. Wow, I'm just shaking my head, Sean.
Well, I appreciate it. I do. And, anytime that we have an opportunity to tell our story, people usually say, this is just insane, and they're willing to help. And so whatever you can to spread the word, to contact the president, to contact your elected it would be greatly appreciated from our family, greatly appreciated. And so the website again it's justiceforeddie.com. You'll see some news articles there, and you can read my brother's bio and see pictures of him and his family and his kids. So it's justiceforeddie.com. And again, whatever you can do, it's not always easy asking for help, but we need it. And so thank you for those who have already contributed and donated the time and are already on our cause. And James, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my brother. Again, one of the silver linings of this whole thing is, Eddie never wanted you to know his name. He never wanted anybody to know who he was. He loved serving the country humbly and secretly. But now that he's at one of the small little blessings I have is I get to gush on my brother. And I can just tell you, he's a good man. He's a really good man.
Oh,
and he deserves better.
No doubt, man. Just hearing his, oh my God, this story. Wow. You're welcome on this program at any time you want, Sean, anytime Andrea wants. And we're going to start tomorrow, big blitz on trying to get the website out there and getting the word out there. If Chris don't get you back, let me know, and I'll start ringing his phone up, and I'll get out there. Hey, Bikers for Trump, get on Chris Cox, man. He's got the ear of the president. Let him put it to work for Eddie. So, again, I really appreciate you having on, Sean, and we got you in our prayers, our thoughts, and everything for the family.
God bless you, man. Thank you.
You too. I'll talk to you later, Sean.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And that was Sean Gallagher. My God. And that was Sean Gallagher. If you guys want to call in, go ahead and call in. The studio number is 847-957-1656. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I'll give it a couple minutes before we go off air. Again, the number is 847-957-1656. Let me know your guys' thought. My God. I cannot believe that our government is doing this to one of our soldiers. How they can drag two kids out and have them at gunpoint is, what is this country's going? What is it? What's happening now? Really? My God. Hey, Sinister, how you doing? I haven't seen you guys in the chat room. I'm sorry. No justice, no peace. Rock and roll. John, thanks for doing that tweet to Ben Shapiro and stuff like that. Yeah, we really got to get the word out. The only way to help a soldier like Eddie is to get out there pounding it on social media, sharing everything, and all that good jive. You're on air. How you doing?
Oh, man. I'm fucking heated. My fucking uncle, the Navy SEALs, my grandfather, Admiral in the Navy. Man, this is just some fucking straight fucking bullshit, man. I always tell my kids, just think about what you have. There's always somebody worse off. You know, I owe back taxes. I got bills to pay. You know, I'm a little f***y about this and that, you know. But fuck, there's always somebody worse off. I feel so fucking bad for this dude. And who the fuck cares if we kill a motherfucking terrorist? They're beheading our fucking people. They're killing Christians by droves. If you don't believe in their bullshit fucking religion. Oh, dude, I'm so fucking pissed off. I got fucking, Muslim temples next to me. These motherfuckers don't abide by the laws. Oh, dude, I'm heated.
You sound like it, Dan. You know what? I am heated myself. I just cannot believe it. It's one of them shake your head moments. And you know what? I hope some good comes out of this. And you do got to worry about some of them people. And my God, but
dude, if fucking OJ can walk away, this guy's got to be able to get out of it.
Right. Exactly. My God. But thanks for calling in, Dan. Really appreciate it, buddy. Been a long show. Been kind of emotional here with this show, man. This was a hard one.
Hey, God bless the USA, but what the fuck is going on with this motherfucking government and their communist fucking viewpoint? It's bullshit, dude.
Exactly. Okay, buddy, I'll let you go right there. And
later.
Well, we're going to end the show on that note. And again, check out HarleyLiberty.com and stand behind this family. Get it out there, guys. And let's get it shared on social media.